curators, the artists, the public institutions themselves. There's a lot of different players which actually come together in terms of exhibiting and promoting certain artists and acquiring certain artists to their collection. An example in the UK is obviously the Tate. In terms of Latin American arts, they've had a number of blockbuster exhibitions, including Gabriela Rosco, Oiticica, Frida Kahlo, and this has also been complemented by other large public institutions in the UK which have represented Latin American artists such as Ernesto Neto at the Hayward Gallery and Lygia Papi at the Serpentine more recently. In terms of legitimising artists and artworks, the Tate has been, in my opinion, very influential. They have, well, the largest acquisitions committee for Latin American art, definitely in the UK. If not, well, Tate and MoMA together have extensive acquisitions committees and also dedicated associate curators of Latin American art as well. The Tate now has over 300 Latin American artworks in its collection, and a number of these are now on permanent display in their galleries as well as temporary blockbuster exhibitions. Other international public collections include Scala, the Essex collection of art from Latin America, the Mosaic, Pompidou and MIMA as well, which specialises in Latin American drawings. I would say the legitimisation of certain Latin American artists has, well, occurred through these large exhibitions and the public institutions, and also relates to the collectors which play a part in the role on the acquisitions committee, and then once these artworks are in the collection they subsequently influence more collectors, more galleries, and increase those artists' profiles. Also in terms of public collections, often the institutions already have existing collections, such as the Tate, which perhaps in this context have more of a European or Western European US history, and when the collections are acquiring works from Latin America, it's often to fit in with these already existing collections, and that often affects the type of works acquired. So, for example, works acquired by the Tate are often related to more conceptual works or minimal works where the Tate already has an existing collection. So I suppose I'm pointing out what kind of artworks are legitimised or given profile. This often depends on the trends already established by the institutions and collections themselves. And it's important to consider the different institutions and I suppose their specific focuses. For example, the Essex collection of art from Latin America is perhaps less dependent on the trends of collectors and the market, and is more research related. So in terms of the profile artists are given, it's important to consider the different public institutions and their different focuses as well.
This is I think most artists, if they saw this, would say that it's heinously reductive and oversimplistic. But this is just a brief guide to the key turning points within an artist's career, and it is useful to think about these kind of key milestones within the CV and the key points of recognition. I mean, obviously it's a much longer process, but these are some of the things to bear in mind. Often the first time an artist's work will be shown to a public and available for sale as a graduate show, and this is increasingly graduate shows are very professionally presented. Prices in the middle of the last decade started to sort of balloon, although they've kind of come down a little bit now. So graduate shows are often, this is the first time an artist will have shown their work usually. After that, the first couple of years may be marked by group and solo exhibitions, either with peer-led exhibitions or other kind of grassroots spaces and commercial organisations, and then representation by a respected dealer that operates within this kind of international market. that's an important milestone, because again, as, for all the reasons we talked about, having a representative that works for you within this kind of very busy, complicated marketplace is a very, very important stepping stone. And then this is far briefer than the subject that it is the prizes, awards and residencies. There is a huge number of these, of all of these now. I mean, there's very high profile prizes like the Turner Prize, for example, but also there's the Max Mara Art Prize for Women and the Hugo Boss Prize, I think. And also the Contemporary Art Society actually has a very major award, a £60,000 award for a museum to commission and purchase a work by a contemporary artist. So there's all sorts of different prizes, down to much smaller things like the Jerwood or the Threadneedle. But also residencies. There are some very kind of high profile, important residencies, and some very small ones that are essentially just this modest stipend and some studio space. But on an artist's CV, it's good to look for a rounded mixture of different awards, and it's good to see people that have attracted this kind of attention throughout their career. That's always a very positive sign if an artist has won something at university, maybe won something a few years later, and if their career is punctuated by a number of awards and residencies, it means that throughout these formative years, a range of people are interested in supporting their work. And then again, acquisition by a major public collection is one of the most important end goals for a contemporary artist. When you're thinking about purchasing a work by a contemporary artist, and you're looking at their CV and you're looking at the work and you're wondering about their career and what people, what the art world, what the art world's opinion of them is, it's good to think about all of these things in tandem. Age, whereabouts are they in their career? Have they just left university? Are they mid-career? Are they just started practicing, although they're a bit older? All of these things, good things to think about. Fine art degree. There's in London, in any case, I'm not going to talk about anywhere else. In London, a small number of very respected art schools. Usually a BA. It's often really only with an MA that artists and British artists tend to attract a lot of attention. BA artists, people tend to often wait, see what else they're going to do, but often at MA shows, that's when people may even start to get picked up by big galleries and purchased by major collectors. Exhibitions, again, you're going to want to see a nice rounded mixture of regular solo presentations by a gallery, a regular gallery that they work with, as well as an inclusion in group commercial exhibitions, but also an increasing number of public exhibitions. These are really what key indicators of critical importance is public exhibitions. And then as the artists get older, international platforms and biennials become more important. So again, there's a number of well-known biennials. There's Venice, Sao Paulo, Lyon Biennial, and there's an increasing number of biennials. But you should always be looking for an artist to be participating in these biennials. But also there's quinquennials like Documenta, which is every 5 years and which is on this year, and things like Manifesta, and all sorts of different international platforms. And these are really key places where the artists can be seen amongst an international spread of their peers. They used not to be parts of the contemporary art market, but now biennials are very much kind of being subsumed into the contemporary art market. And if, for example, it's the Venice Biennial, you will get emails or magazine advertisements by all of the commercial galleries saying congratulations to X and X, they've been included in this year's biennial. So they're now very important places to do business, although they aren't formally part of the market, but have become so. And I've mentioned residencies, awards, prizes a minute ago, and bibliography. Again, as an artist progresses, you need to see a gradual increase in terms of the literature that builds around their work. So there are major art world publications in the UK, such as Frieze and Art Review. Abroad in America, there's things like Art Forum. These are the really well-respected art world publications that you should keep an eye out for. But there are all sorts of other ways in which the literature around an artist can build. So you want to see some good catalogue essays, critics, and other kind of written appraisals of their work that help to take the work of these artists to a wider audience. And then collections. So as well as important public collections, as I mentioned earlier, private, we call them private collections, and now there's many more of them. People are establishing huge numbers of private foundations, and many of them now operate as quasi-institutions that kind of really have a very serious, or work towards having a very serious, programmatic kind of, exhibition program that will be very critically engaged, will support the art, the shows with catalogue essays and all these kinds of things. So these are all good things to bear in mind when you're looking at an artist and wondering whether you might purchase their work. These are some, we always mention these, but I don't really know many people who kind of adopt any of these approaches, but they can be helpful to think about in terms of how is the collection structured that you're looking to build. Are you looking to survey a movement or a group of artists, or are you looking at focusing on a small number of artists and tracking important moments throughout their career with multiple acquisitions? This is before everyone leaves. These again are just some questions to consider when looking to build a collection. Is why are you looking to collect? Why are you looking to form a collection? Is it just a personal activity, or is it something that you're looking to do for a number of other reasons? But also very practical considerations like budget. Where are the works going? Are you going to be able to look after them? Do you have the suitable conditions for them? I might go specifically into the Latin American tips.
Okay, a few tips, just helpful collecting patterns. These are a few guidelines, in my opinion, that research is very important. Be aware, I suppose, in what I've been speaking about in terms of the different histories, complexities of what Latin American art is in the contemporary scene and has been historically, the trends in terms of modern, abstract, conceptual, political works, and the specific trends which are guided by different elements of the market and also in different systems within Latin America. So thinking of the global art circuit and also thinking of local contexts and market specific to each country in Latin America, which leads on to the next point, which is travel, if we can. I think it obviously is important to, if you're able, to travel to Latin America. We're lucky enough to have a lot of Latin American artists here and living here or exhibited in Europe and the UK, but this represents a very small sector of what obviously is a much larger system and amount of artists who are working in the region, so that's important to bear in mind. Thinking of the countries that perhaps have less established market systems in Latin America, it's important to consider artist-run spaces and networks which exist perhaps on a more local scale, which also represent a different type of artwork, which thinking of the global art circuits and thinking of a lot of comments I've received recently as well, is people, art has gone from, Latin American art has put on the market system, has gone from being represented as very exotic and different to then going the other way to being completely global and fit in with a global market. And it's interesting to search for something between the two, and in that sense it's useful to look at local spaces, networks and artist-run organisations that exist. Obviously publications are important to read and bear in mind. There are some which are more market-driven and market-related, Art Nexus, Art Al Dia, which are here at the fair, and also smaller publications. And prices, in terms of buying art from Latin America, you obviously have to bear in mind the issues of taxes, transport of artworks, and that can influence the decision of where to purchase those works.